Welcome to the Church Explorer, and today we are at St. Peter's Church in the small village of Tempsford in Bedfordshire, and we've come over to explore this church. Now, Tempsford is connected to what was the SOE, the Special Operations Executive, during the Second World War, and they have a museum just up the road, but unfortunately it's closed. But having said that, I'm going to see if I can get into one of the barns where they actually flew the agents out to places like France, undercover agents that would go in. It would be there possibly for most a one-way trip. Many of them were caught, as we know, and executed by the Germans. And I've always wondered, and I've just been speaking to the chappie that runs the museum, actually, a fellow called Steve, and I've always wondered whether some of the agents, before they actually flew out to France or wherever, actually visited this church, you know, if they were religious, to say a few prayers before they, you know, embarked on possible suicide mission. So anyway, there are some nice little features in the church, and I will try to point out and show you as many as I possibly can. So there we are, and it's a beautiful day today. We've got blue skies, and I will show you around the church. So as I say, here we are at St. Peter's Church in the village of Tempsford in Bedfordshire, and I will just pan round and show you a little bit of the churchyard. There are some nice old buildings in the village, some lovely little thatched cottages, which I'm not going to be able to have time to go around today. But what we're going to do, we're going to film some of the outside first. The church, there are parts of the church that date back to the 14th century, but the church went through major restoration in 1621, and I understand that there's a plaque on the outside here somewhere. It's gone through two major restorations in its time, and the church does actually have a peal of 6 bells. So we'll take a wander around the back here, and I'll see if I can find these plaques that give us the information as to when it was restored. I don't actually see them. The church is built of ironstone, iron and sandstone. That's what gives it this sort of glorious colour. Ah, there's a plaque up there. Just bear with me, peeps. I'll see if I can. Up the top there's a plaque. Thomas Barrett, the rector, something, I can't quite read it all. It was the rector of the parish, and it dates back to 1621, and that's when the major restoration took place. The church is still used to this day, and they've had a memorial service here today. It looks lovely, doesn't it, with the sun and the blue skies shining on it. And they have, as I say, had a memorial service here today, and the church is well decorated for Christmas. And then we shall go inside. We'll have to be careful because there are people inside, and we will have to be careful as to not interrupt them too much. But before I go, I want to show you what I've just noticed over the wall here. You'd never believe the things you come across. There's some kind of dinosaur. So you've got to find that rather funny, haven't you? A dinosaur in the middle of Bedfordshire. I do have to keep stopping filming because there are people wandering around, and we don't want to, as I say, interrupt them. Whoops. This I would imagine is part of the original 14th century. If you look at the stonework in here. And we're going to go through this entrance here, which would have been the priest entrance. It isn't a very large church, but as I say, it's gone through two different major restorations. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a placard to the glory of God in remembrance of the King Edward the Elder, who defeated the Danes at Tempsford in 921 AD. This window is humbly offered by the Reverend John Devonport Jones, former rector of the parish St. Peter, in 1908. That is a beautiful window, people. I don't know who's it by, but that is a beautiful window. And there, up there, we have a cathedral by the looks of it. That could be Lincoln, or it could be Norwich, I'm not sure which. As I say, a lot of the church has gone under severe restoration over the years, so it has changed. And again, as I say, I've got to be careful because there are people in the church. Whoops, a daisy, I'm being attacked by something. We have another beautiful stained glass window here. Always difficult to get the stained glass windows. I'll take a walk down and I will try not to fall over. You know I'm very good at falling over. There's a tree here. It's a memorial tree really with names of all the people that have passed away over the years, and that's what the service was all about today. Now I understand that the pulpit here on my right hand side actually dates to the 15th century. As I say, the church is now decorated for Christmas, and we have a wonderful nativity display here. Always lovely to see, always lovely to see. I just love to see these in the churches. They're gorgeous, aren't they? The original rood screen and everything, needless to say, which would have been up here, has all been taken out. This is the problem, that when people wanted to sort of modernise churches back in the day, they took out all the wonderful 12th, 13th century artefacts. Here on this corner, this is a memorial that's dedicated to all the agents of the SEO that flew out from Tempsford. Whoops, I got to be careful because there's all sorts here. And also what we have here, this is the Chapel of St. Catherine, and I'm going to have to walk around. Just bear with me, people. I'm going to go round and try and film a little bit more for you. As I say, they are just about closing up the church and wanting to lock it, but I will try it and cover as much as I possibly can. Here we go, this is better. Most of them, the agents, flew out in a little plane called the Lysander. There you go, there's a plaque for all those who operated from RAF Tempsford Airfield in 1941 and 1945. So the resistance workers who were flown to enemy-occupied Europe, and in remembrance of those who gave their lives for freedom, which was many of them. And on this wall here, underneath this plaster, there's actually a painting of St. Catherine, but it was painted over, apparently, I believe, by some prisoners of war. But this is what it would have looked like. And here is about Villette. Now there was a film, that's the film, Carve Her Name with Pride. She was one of the agents that flew out of here. If you haven't seen the film, then I highly recommend you see it. The GC stands for she was given the George Cross. It's a very, very moving film. Here we have some of the more of the women of the SOE who flew out, and they weren't just English, they were Canadians, Australians, all sorts. And here we have some of the people that served during the First World War. I've got to be careful where I tread. But yes, I've always wanted to come to this church. And this is a plaque to the guys that gave, and the women who gave their lives in 1919 war. I'll take a wander down. I do know that they're wishing to close up the church, so as I say, I'm trying to cover as much as I possibly can for you, as quickly as I possibly can. I don't know what this dates back to, but it's rather grand, isn't it? And obviously in need of some serious restoration. I do wonder where that came from. I'll see if I can find out anything about it. We'll pan back down the church. Let me just give you a taste of what the church actually looks like. If I can squeeze through here, I'll take us to underneath the tower. And again, as I say, I'm trying to avoid people. And this will take us underneath the tower. And here's the ropes for the bells. And look at this wonderful ladder. I always love to see these old ladders, you know. And we have various plaques in here. Again, I've got to be careful where I stand. Now I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to be able to cover all of this church today because, as I say, you know, they're very kindly hanging on for me to do a little bit of filming, but I can't be rude. Back of the organ, people. Wow, it's rather strange, isn't it, that the organ sits right out there. We have a plaque up here of the rectors, which again, as you know, I always like to see these because it actually gives you a clear indication of the dates. Whoops, and Stephen falling over. And the first one here is dated 1129, and some decorum, rather difficult to pronounce. And then we have 1166, 1222, 1224. And then we have some here from the Priory of St. Neots. But always like to see these. It really does bring home just how old these churches are. And again, as I always say, this is why the churches should be preserved. I think I'm going to get kicked out any second now, people, because they are wanting to go home and have their lunch. But it's given us a little inkling and insight into the church, and we will come back and do a much larger study one day, because I do know that there's other things in here that I haven't seen yet. Well guys, I know that was rather a quick tour of St. Peter's here today. As I say, I will be coming back and doing a full video, but I do hope you enjoyed this one. Don't stop watching just yet, because if I can get to the hut where the SOE agents used to fly out from, which I've just been told by one of the curators, Steve, I may be able to get in there today. And so yeah, hang on to this video for the moment, and I'll see if I can sort of tail it on to the end of this video, because it's very interesting. Well, I think it's very interesting. I just love the history of the whole thing, and you have to have an awful lot of empathy for the people that flew out, who were SOE agents and that. But there we are today, St. Peter's Church in Tempsford, Bedfordshire. I hope you liked the video. Please like, subscribe and share with your friends. So thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye. Hi guys. What I've done, through the help of Steve that I met back at the church, I've found the track that now leads up to the shed. Excuse me if this is a bit wobbly. Yes, I found the track that leads up to the shed where the SOE agents actually flew out from. So what we're going to do, I'll turn the camera around in a moment, and we're going to take a wander down this track. I'm told it's about a 15-minute walk or more, and we'll hopefully be able to get into this barn. So bear with me, I'm going to turn the camera around. Whew. It's also bitterly cold. I'm hoping that, hi guys, I'm hoping that that in the distance is the barn that I'm looking for. But as I say, I think this, if I pan round, it is very windy, peeps. If I pan round, I believe that this is part of the old runway. So we'll keep walking up. It is bitter, bitter cold here. I do believe that may be it. Wow. There's some works going on here. Heaven knows what they're doing. I have no idea what they're up to there. But I'm hoping that this is the barn. Well, if you could imagine that you were one of these agents for the SEO, Special Operations Executive, and you were being brought out to here back in the days of the Second World War, you know, the feelings and everything else that they must have run through their brains and their veins must have been, you know, absolutely terrifying, really, knowing that they were, most of them would never ever return. They were exceptionally brave people to be going behind the enemy lines and fighting with the resistance across Europe. Whoa, I'm sorry about the wind, I can't do anything about that. But I do believe that this is the barn. And if you could imagine being driven in here in the darkness of night, early hours of the morning, you'd probably have been to the local pub, as I say, and had a few stiff whiskies. Still your nerves. I've got to find my way round. Well, yeah, you know, the feelings that they must have gone through them, through their bodies and that, and the fear, and yet they still got onto these little planes to fly, you know, mainly to France. Wow. You imagine it, you just cannot imagine. I can't imagine. This is the barn, people. Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, and they were brought here just before they flew out. You just can't imagine, can you, being brought here. Here we have a plaque. I hope that's coming out okay. Tempsford Airfield, never forgotten. Reginald Eric Wilkinson. Oh, there's so much here to read. In memory of Sergeant John Insole, wireless operator, air gunner number 161, who failed to return from an SEO mission, code name Vega 3, destination Notre-Dame, Norway, March the 19th, 1943. He was flying an Halifax DG-244. Also, all the rest of the crew lost their lives. Wow. Yeah, we have one here to Pilot Officer Joseph Alex Kite. Was born in 1919, the son of Gilbert and Elsie Kite. In May 1942, after completing a course at 20 OTU, on night bombing course. He was posted to 161 Squadron at Tempsford. He was commissioned as a pilot officer. He was married to Dorothy Layton on the 15th of August 1942. On the night of the 2nd of October, Kai, along with pilot officer Edge and Sergeant Kenneth Harbridge, Alfred Gander, John Scott and D.L. Tapp, all of the RAF took off in an Armstrong Whitworth Whitley. Don't ask me what that is. Well, obviously it's a plane, but I don't know that particular type of plane. And they crashed off the coast of Holland. Wow. But yeah, let me pan around. As I say, this barn in itself doesn't actually look much, but what it actually represents to me is extraordinary. Yeah. These people came through here, and you can imagine they had their packs and things or whatever. These crosses of all the people that lost their lives. Wow. It's very important in my view that this is kept. There's various pieces of information here. Dedications from previous years and reefs. Wow. I'm not sure what that is though. I presume that would have been the electric box. Maybe lighting up the runway or something. Wow. Tempsford Airfield, and this is on Gibraltar Farm, erected to commemorate the brave deeds of the men and women of every nationality who flew from this wartime airfield to the forces of the resistance in France, Norway, Holland and other countries during the years of 1942 to 1945. The equipment for their dangerous missions was issued to them from this barn. Wow. And there's a piece there that says about the Gibraltar barn. Look at all these reefs, people. Here I have a plaque that commemorates the heroic deeds of 150 men and one woman from the Polish Special Air Operations Executive, silent and unseen. Wow. Wow. Doesn't look anything at all, does it? There's an old newspaper there, look. Well, I can't see the date on it. Look at that. Maybe someone can tell me the date. I don't want to destroy it. Wow. Oh, I did say, people, that I would try and film this for you today, and there's nothing really I can add. Some of the Polish airmen that flew from here. And some other information here also about the Polish Air Force. Whoops. I wonder why this was called Gibraltar Farm. I'll just come outside so you can see where this barn is. The sun is shining, so that may give us a bit of a problem. But yep. Well guys, I do hope you like this video. Please like, share, subscribe. As I say, it all helps the channel grow. But yeah, and I hope you remember this video also. Because I think, you know, you have to pay homage to these people. Yeah, they were all so very brave. I don't know, you can't come to this place and not feel something. You know, you really, really cannot come here and not feel something. Oh, here we have one of the Lysanders, look. Wow. 138 Squadron for Freedom and 168 Squadron Liberate. Wow. But yeah, you can't come here and not be moved. So that's it, peeps. That's the end of the vid. Thank you very much for watching. Take good care. Have a good day. Bye.